Sign up now if you want to come down to the High Res Expo. I won't be in cosplay, but you can be. And you can even win prizes. November 15th and onwards. Not forever. There is an end date, unfortunately. But highresexpo.com is where you can grab tickets. Do it. My name's Tom Badger. I'm joined here by Ryan Agro Bailey.
Tom, can I say something real quick?
Of course.
I think you should cosplay.
No.
If you think that your god impressions are as good as you think they are, then go ahead and cosplay, and it might be one of the best in the entire event. You come out, you look like Chronos, you give him the let's go.
Let's go.
Just like that.
That's so good.
That is really good.
So good.
Ow. That is very nice. Cosplay it. It'll be cool.
My voice cosplays.
I don't think that's what cosplay is.
It's voice play cosplay style. Game number 2 should be an interesting one, Ryan. We just got the chance to commentate game number 1. You're right there, champ?
Yeah, that whatever you just said wasn't on my note card, so I was a little thrown off. But I am excited to talk about Exordium versus Outcold. This is a set that Outcold, if they want to get towards that top end and try and get to that top 2, it's a must-win. I mean, you just cannot afford to drop even. This should be a 2-0 for Outcold if they're going to try and reach that top 2 point, because plus minus when you're already behind like this is going to end up mattering. You're probably going to need some help in that department. Got to find a clean 2-0 here if you want to get to that top 2.
Exordium has been largely fish food for a lot of these teams, and as we sort of look towards the majority of the European minor league, honestly, it's a lot of positives. Exordium, unfortunately, has not been a part of those conversations, and so they've become a hurdle in my mind. They're kind of just PvE. Like Ryan said, you got to win these 2, and if you don't, it's a larger statement that you don't 2-0 than if you do. P's and B's, pretty please, as we get into game numero 1.
I mean, Exordium just has struggled a lot so far this phase, and they came in a little bit late. You know, they were one of these expansion teams coming to the minor league, but we've seen 2 expansion teams, one in each region, in the form of Horizon Union and Hype Unit in North America, be top-end contenders.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't buy that that's a huge excuse for these teams at this point. Exordium just needs to figure it out, needs to put it together. Too late for them to make a land at this point. They will not be coming to those Worlds qualifiers, but still getting ready for next year, understanding how to get that competitive experience, certainly still valuable time for them.
A couple of bands coming out here, the Morgan and the Amaterasu, across the way, Set Nisus. Just following the tier list here, best characters in the game, arguably. And I won't be on the other side of that argument. So Outcold Gaming, getting rid of those 2. Susano, a recent character that has risen to prominence. Obviously, the Heartseeker interaction was interesting, been fixed. But I think that just reminded people that Susano does Susano things. And sometimes that happens that way. Yeah. I talk a lot about the metagame being influenced by numbers and patches, but also just recency bias. And Susano is one of those characters that has just been this damn good, but recently somebody took him out because of some interaction. Even with that changed, he'll be banned here. Thoth guy, number 1.
Yeah, FrostiaK's on the other side. FrostiaK, Susano is his best character for sure. Take it away from him. Give him the Thor. FrostiaK can play very, very well on this pick. Also, I mean, FrostiaK's consistency has been an issue his entire career, no matter where he's been. Last year, he fixed a lot of those issues, I thought, at the SPL level, playing very, very well. We'll see. I mean, this year in general has not been kind to all of Outcold Gaming. It hasn't just been limited to Frosty.
I've been one of the most critical of FrostiaK over his entire career, and I agree with you. It was last year things started to solidify for the jungler and started working in his favor. Hopefully things can continue this year as well. I would love to see FrostiaK kind of keep it going. Thoth paired up with another Birdman. Horus will be the choice next to Osiris. So a lot of frontline prowess here from Osiris and Horus. Single-player lockdown for the majority of it. I know Tether hits multiple people, and if you're lucky, you can ultimate multiple people on the Osiris, but I always view these gods as single-player lockdown. Arthur and Raijin, not your favorite mage.
Yeah, I just don't think Raijin is super good right now, and it's also Outcold is a team that might struggle in this type of meta. I mean, PrettyPriMe is one of the best mage players to ever touch Smite. There's no contesting it. His Hunter play can be good. He's played Hunters at a high level in the past, but the Anhurs, it's more like the Neaths and the Medusas and things like that I kind of associate with PrettyPriMe. Maybe this Raijin is going to go over to Spudio in the long lane, but I don't love that either.
Yeah, Raijin just seems... there's been a lot of conversation on Raijin on Reddit and in other channels What can you say about Raijin in general?
I just think that he was at his peak when it was all about these proc items in his build. It was Soul Gem, it was Gem of Isolation, it was Spear of the Magus, it was all these items that really worked well off of little ticks hitting consistently. Literally every one of those items has been nerfed. Every single one of them. And Raijin has been nerfed. So you got double whammy. I just don't think he's super good.
Exordium finished their draft off with a Hun Batsinator. I like this draft from Exordium. I think it's very simple, cut and dry. We've seen a lot of Xbalanque in the mid lane. Lack of clear is gifted by the fact that everybody's in that lane, so you don't really need all that push. Xbalanque leaving Thoth in the long side, Hun Bats in the jungle. Very standard composition these days from Exordium. And so because of that, I like it. I think it's low execution, which is exactly what you're looking for when your team's struggling to find the victories. Across the way, Outcold gaming at Chiron in addition to their draft. What's your take?
I like it if this is going to be in the mid lane, and it feels like it will be for Outcold. This is a type of god that I think Prime can excel on.
OCG and Exordium, game number 1. Let's get to it.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Aggro. Finch and Anatoly as he move into the action for set number 2, the last one in Europe Minor League for the day. And like they were saying on the desk, man, this is a big one for Outcold. They're still on the outside looking in terms of trying to make it towards that placement stage, but if they do want to make it, they're going to have to win out from here.
That's true. Being 3-3 currently, their best possible record is going to be 7-3, which would definitely be almost quite there, knowing how Simplicity just won their set of Flashpoint, needing to find some victories as well to ensure their spot at the High-Res Expo. But Exordium, unfortunately, 0-6, out of the running.
You know, this is funny. It's been a while since we've seen the 2v2 over here in solo. There was a while where this was the thing. The supports would come over here and just kind of hang out and clear this wave. But lately, they've been chilling with the mid laners, soaking up that farm. So these two teams kind of going back a little bit.
It might be a gentleman's agreement. You see so much feedback of like, man, anyone that invades is like filth, right? Or like on Twitter or whatnot. So maybe it's like, man, I don't want to get talked about like that. So they're just kind of sticking to their roots. 2v2, I think, should favor out this Osiris Horus combination. But it doesn't look that way because Breez on the Naja with those AoE splash basic attacks is helping him clear the wave alongside Dimi's King Arthur.
And he found a nice ring bounce there too. That adds a lot to the variance as Outcold should be able to strip this blue buff. FrostiaK has already made the rotation over. They'll get here ahead of Froisan, and it will indeed be a successful blue buff strip away from Exordium, who are really still level 1 over here in the solo lane. They can't hope to come over and fight.
Going from speed to red was Froisan, leaving his blue buff a little bit exposed, and I don't know how FrostiaK got that intel because there's no wards on that side of the map. He took a little bit of a gamble, and it worked out at the end.
Well, maybe he knew no one in the short lane had gone over to pick it up.
That
so
could have been it,
dropped.
or maybe PrettyPriMe saw him cross over between that tier 1, tier 2 tower over to the red buff. If your mid laner communicates that after you're doing speed buff into your back camps, you have that timing window to go do whatever you please.
And you know that they couldn't have gone down there. So a couple of ways that FrostiaK could have known, because he took some confident pathing to that blue buff.
He did.
Like it was definitely going to be there. So he definitely had some information to work with when making that call.
And he also recognized the fact that his teammates had the pressure in the solo lane, so they would have at least a 3-on-1 advantage.
Breez in some trouble here though as Alka able to catch him out. Exordium finds first blood. And that's tough, man. I've been talking a lot about how I think Breez kind of revitalized this Outcold team. I know they haven't been, world beaters or anything like that, but they've looked like they have that potential. And so for him to go down here early could potentially hurt the squad.
That's the power of Horus right there. That one little knockup. And Naja is classified as an assassin, so it doesn't have the base stats that you would expect out of your typical Guardian or even Warrior in the support role as you get knocked up. All that follow-up damage, even early game from the Xbalanque, was just too much for Breez to handle. And going for such an aggressive relic like the Horrific Emblem, he actually used that in the solo lane to get that little bit of pressure, so not having the shell for the safety, an easy first blood now for Exordium.
I wouldn't be surprised if Horrific Emblems start to make a bit of a resurgence, Tully. There's so few sprints out there nowadays that this could really punish some teams if you can catch them off guard with this slow.
A little bit of 1v1 action here. FrostiaK getting the better end of this trade, one level advantage, and Thor is getting 10 free physical power just by being near you. And to touch on your Horrific Emblem discussion, I agree. And it's not just a sprint that counters the slow. I think also even with that aspect, the amount of damage reduction that it's dealing, the relic, plus the attack speed reduction is still a worthwhile pick.
100%. Agree with you there. As Thor loves to battle even pre-level 5. FrostiaK, though, taking a little bit of damage, does not quite come ahead in that trade the way I think he would have liked to, and he ends up falling back. You talked about how they have the support Naja for them, which does mean they want to continue to be active early, but I feel like Naja is one of those kind of off-roll supports that doesn't transition too badly into the mid and late game. It's not as if this team can't fight later, though I think they probably would prefer to try and get a lead here early.
When you're going for a support that isn't your typical Guardian, you have to find uses, edge case uses, as like justify this pick in the support role. So in Naja's case, you don't really have percent damage, but what you do have is your penetration from your ring bounces, which sets up your other damage dealers like the Thor, and then also your ultimate, the Windfire Wheels, get somebody out of combat long enough, and then if you have any sort of follow-up on the ground waiting, PrettyPriMe on the Chiron, Spudio on the Raijin, that justifies the Naja support pick.
Exactly, and that stuff is all still good even in the late game where maybe he's not quite as tanky as what you might want. He still has those powerful tools, so I do think that this Naja can find himself a pretty good home even if Outcold had to go a little bit later than what they might have liked when they started drafting. But, I mean, this team had such high expectations as Itori has to make a quick dash away. He might be in some more trouble. Alka had to come back to join him, so everything's okay. They even used Itori's ultimate, it looks like, on that one, too. 2
defensive ultimates just because of the pathing was less than optimal. I like the positioning there out of Spudio, making that half rotation just to see what was going to happen. It's important for side laners to recognize those opportunities to rotate, whether it's solo lane or the long lane, because there's so few opportunities with how much there is to farm.
Well, this is a really good response from Exordium to try and bully PrettyPriMe here in this spot. Looks like he's not even inside the actual passive, so he lived with the damage. 56 just was not quite enough there from Alka at the back end.
So PrettyPriMe definitely thought he was going to die there, which is why he used the ultimate, because he could have actually still died because of the movement speed penalty while being in that Centaurus ultimate. I thought that if he just walks, he would have been safe.
But Itori now in some trouble. FrostiaK isn't able to find the hammer, teleports in past the peel from Alka, and evens up our kill count at 1-1 here so far, and slowing down the Xbalanque.
FrostiaK with some really important back timings. Normally, you're still kind of farming for your Warrior Tablet, but FrostiaK with that physical power and still the Mace 1, plenty of damage to abuse Itori that I don't think had fully completed Ninja Tablet with his Tier 2 Transcendence.
Caught Itori a bit off guard there in the middle lane. That's what Thor can do throughout this early game. So that kind of play was good. But I did want to say Exordium were making the right call. I noticed it was another big rotation from Outcold to strip away this blue buff on the right-hand side. So instead of meeting them there and defending it, they pushed up aggressively to try and strip away PrettyPriMe's red buff. They didn't quite get the kill for it, but they did push it back out of lane and threaten that side of the map.
If you're losing something on the right, you got to get something on the left. Dimi is controlling the matchup because of FrostiaK's early presence on that blue buff. A good way to shut down this Osiris, especially when Dimi needs to spam his abilities, is not going to allow Cozy to keep up in that aspect. And if Dimi can utilize that advantage by making the earlier rotations than Cozy, that's how OCG can start really putting pressure on the objectives.
Spudio was on this Raijin in the long lane, and we've seen a little bit more, I feel like, come up from Raijin here lately, but this long lane might not be too bad a spot for him. His clear has always felt strong as Breez sashes in, gets caught here by Alka. Does have Prime nearby, so we certainly might have a scuffle on our hands. There's the Windfire Wheels, and FrostiaK takes to the sky as well. Alka comes right back down, but FrostiaK still hasn't picked his target. They want Alka yet again. He just starts channeling the ultimate, but doesn't have time. Prime gets the kill.
4-on-1, but now Froisan here, as he jumps over, couldn't get the Fear No Evil off.
Wow, FrostiaK made it to that hammer. That's crazy. He's out of there just that easily and holds onto the bead, so Exordium, they don't get anything on the back end of that.
FrostiaK's mechanics can never be questioned.
Agreed.
I think back in the Season 2 days...
Maybe the decision-making, but not the mechanics.
Yeah,
yes.
Season 2 Dignitas days with Shadow Nightmare and co., the Sun Touch days as well. He was a player that led his team. He, made the team, or he, helped the team kind of go down in a fire as well. Because as a jungler, you have to be aggressive. You have to be looking for the plays, and that's something that FrostiaK was no stranger towards. He actually, throughout his career, would have the most first bloods or be the most first blooded because of that aggression.
Right.
Whether that's successful throughout the lifetime of his career is a different story, but you can never question his ability to hit his buttons.
Agreed. I mean, Tom and I were casting Relating yesterday and talking about how much we appreciated his aggression. Despite being behind, even though it was hurting them, you want to be able to hold on to that mentality where you're not afraid to shoot the ball, to use a basketball metaphor. just because you're behind. Obviously, you still do want to be careful, make sure you're picking your spots, but it's hard to teach, I think. That's something that you kind of just have to have.
I mean, to quote the great Michael Scott,
yeah,
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah. Wayne Gretzky borrowed that from him, man. That's crazy.
I can't believe it.
But here in this game, things are still relatively slow, despite the fact that Outcold are ahead in terms of kills. The golden experience count is only about 1,000 in their favor. Spudio commits the Thunder Crash on that leap in, but not really looking to all in there.
Sometimes that could be a little bit of a mental battle. What you do in the long lane is like, is he about to get a gank from? Why is he like charging at me?
Sure.
It's a sign of confidence when you're using your dash to engage, knowing that you might have backup, or just to be a big lane bully. As Angry covers a lot of distance on that evade and punish. He'll never really die in the 1v1 to Spudio, but with a global pressure out of the Thor, any poke Spudio can do can set FrostiaK up for the kill.
Agreed. Angry's going to be very careful with where he's using that evade and punish with FrostiaK roaming around this map. We're back to the blue buff invade. This time Alka is here, not quite as heavy a rotation as we've seen in the past here from Outcold, so they're not willing to all-in commit for this one. Now FrostiaK is on his way, ring bounce is there, and the blue buff is stripped away yet again. Alka and Cozyx both have taken way more than they've dished out, so they're just going to turn their attention back towards Cozyx, who's been caught by the Windfire Wheel. But that's still an Osiris who can trade out well, caught by the ultimate, brought back down, but Outcold aren't all in. They're going to settle for Froisan.
Two separate team fights completely. Froisan using that ultimate defensively, but a little bit too late as he's going to get taken out, as OCG really commanding respect on this right side of the map. They have been unrelenting, applying this pressure onto the blue buff. Dimi, I think, stole away 3, maybe even 4 blue buffs thus far.
I think you might be right on that one, man. It's just been really tough for Cozyx here so far, based on entirely around that start. Dimi and Breez working together, and then the early rotation from FrostiaK over, and Cozyx has been behind ever since, and it's already so tough to fight into a King Arthur as it is, especially if you're a level and a half behind.
Yeah, this is going to be really problematic as Dimi's about to hit level 12 to get the second relic. Curious as to where he's going to go. I'm assuming it will be the Blink. Could also be Thorns, though, to deter Angry from ever firing off the final judgment, as I'm expecting Dimi to really start rotating once he does have the second relic, or maybe even a third completed item.
Certainly wouldn't hurt to have Dimi involved in more fights. You know, I was worried if Breez on this Horrific Emblem, as much as I like it, if maybe he'd be missing something like a blink like what Alka has. It's such a playmaking tool for Najahs, especially like blinking over the wall and into the ultimate. But so far, he's been able to be active even without.
He'll definitely get it, I think, at level 12. A
Yeah.
Najah with Blink is so much different than a Najah without the Blink. But then support Najah can still make the plays happen if you can use your Sash at the right timing. You're going to go in there. You have the immunity frames. You have a split-second decision of what you want to do. Do you ulti the target that you stunned, or do you ulti a different target to get closer with your Sash? And a tanky Najah is going to be utilizing that heal very often, so not the easiest target to pick off.
Oracle controlled by Outcold. Exordium had 4 members here, so I thought perhaps there might be a scuffle, but in the end, we see very little there. And this pacing for Outcold, like I said, makes sense. But Exordium still aren't out of reach yet either. I mean, I don't think they insta-lock up the late game, but a Xbalanque and a Thoth as your like carry damage dealers late, I mean, that is pretty potent.
It really is, but I'm having some concerns about how Angry is going to apply his damage off the final judgment when there's so much disruption on OCG's side. Dimi's going to be diving the backline. Good luck trying to stop him, right? FrostiaK has a long-range stun, whether it's the global or the tectonic rift. Breez is going to be looking for him. Spudio can easily either taunt or fear him with the Taiko drum. So I just don't see a world where Angry can cleanly use that ultimate unless Exordium are looking for picks and they find a straggler somewhere from OCG.
Yeah, I mean, Tom yesterday likened Thoth to like a quarterback back there, and he needs time. You know, you got to have someone that stops them from getting to you right away. And this is like Khalil Mack coming for your Thoth in the back line. I don't know how you stop that from happening. So it could potentially be difficult for them, especially if Alka can't find more pressure here throughout the early game. Horus does have some good heal tools, but it's not like an Athena taunt or a Geb shield or anything like that. It does feel like it can be a little bit more situational sometimes.
Outside of that first blood from Alka assisting to killing Breez, he's been a little bit quiet, but not because of him or the pick. I think it's just the pressure that OCG is doing. Just look at this level advantage. Dimi got a little bit of a assistance shove. You know how the parent pushes the little child on the swing?
Right.
That's exactly what OCG did for Dimi. He's like, pushed him once, and then just let the kid push himself from there on out.
Yeah, Cozyx is on the other swing going, where's my push? You know, I've had to do this myself the whole time, and it hasn't been easy for him. He's been struggling. Now down essentially not a full item. He's at the Shillelagh, where the full Blackthorn there for Dimi, but that is difficult to fight into. As Outcold positioning around this Gold Fury, they're ready to turn this lead into an actual team fight and daring Exordium to come in.
It's a 5-on-4. Dimi is here. Cozyx is not, forcing out Alka's ultimate early, though.
Yeah, Alka goes in by himself to try and dissuade them from staying on the objective, but they weren't all in committed. Froisan forced into using the Fear No Evil, and it doesn't even work. FrostiaK has the beads, it completes the kill.
The guaranteed ultimate out of PrettyPriMe just for good measure. Even poking out Angry, daring him from making that play.
Now Alka is the target. He's been caught by Breez with the sash. Windfire Wheel's there too. Comes right back down, he's fine, because Cozyx zoned away Spudio and the rest of the damage. Now Breez stuck in a bit of no man's land, is able to reposition, but there's the Taiko jumps from Spudio, cleans up Cozyx, and looks for Alka.
Oh, but Angry uses evade and punish. He does get the kill, but will sacrifice his life still. Alka even going down. Spudio with a double. Might be a triple, but I think Itori's out.
Yeah, Itori does make it out. I know Froisan just responds, but that was 4 members that went down, essentially just for FrostiaK on the side of Outcold. A really strong fight for them. And really, I don't know what Exordium, I mean, they had to come in there and fight. You can't just give up the Gold Fury there.
I agree. But Angry needed to use the Final Judgment to confirm the Gold Fury, but OCG were not planning on doing that anytime soon. They were going to still look for the fight, but I'm a little surprised that Exordium still tried to fight after losing Froisan relatively early in that little engagement.
Good point.
Fighting 4-on-5 when you're already behind experience is making it worse if you're continuously losing it. Instead, I would like to see Exordium kind of reposition themselves and like look for pincer maneuvers instead of just all grouping up in the same position.
This might be trouble for Itori. He does have Cozyx nearby, but on this Xbalanque, I think he went up to steal the blue buff, and he successfully did so, but just ended up getting chased by Dimi. He'll make it out of there, no problem. And now FrostiaK local on this side of the map. Cozyx is only level 12. He actually could be potentially caught off here. Has been cut off with this wall too, so has to use Lord of the Afterlife defensively. Frosty takes the sky, and they should be able to get this.
If he can hit the Anvil of Dawn, waiting, it will be a zone a little bit. The blink even from Cozyx, Berserker Barrage, and the basic attack seals the deal.
Not even close. They say to themselves. Pyromancer now on the menu for Outcold. They should be able to grab this one pretty easily. And so much of this game really does come down to those repeated blue buff invades and that early start from Outcold. I mean, Dimi's now 3.5 levels up over Cozyx.
Yeah, 0, 0, and 5 without any single kills on top of it.
It's
you don't
crazy.
really need them in the solo lane when you're winning a team fight 4-for-1. There was a lot of experience that Dimi just kind of raked in after that team fight.
And he's been using it effectively. FrostiaK target now for Froisan and for Alka, and this time it works. They just barely had the beats timing on that. Another 10 seconds, and FrostiaK should have been able to make it out.
Those are the plays Exordium needs to go for. Have those defensive relics on the timers to exploit, because just straight up fighting 5-on-5 when all the ultimates are up, all the relics are up, is not in Exordium's favor. But now with a 5-on-4 for 20 seconds, they could maybe go for this tier 1 mid tower.
It's the best they can hope for. Remember, FrostiaK traded those beads to get through the Fear No Evil of Froisan for the kill earlier, so a bit of serendipity as it does slightly come back to bite him on the back end. Froisan, I don't think you can trade here with Dimi, but they've got him locked down. That should stop the healing for a moment. He takes one to the sky to buy himself some time and repositions back to the tier 1, but Breez got to the back line, and Spudio hits the max range Taiko drum. They take down Cozyx.
And Angry's in no man's land now, needs that Horus ultimate, couldn't really get the escape route he wanted, and you would think that Exordium would get the tier 1 mid in a 5-on-4, but no, OCG defend because of Dimi's power and presence, and now they're the ones getting the mid towers instead.
I mean, it was actually a pretty good collapse on a Dimi. The only problem is that he's level 16. Alka trying his best to defend, but it might cost him his life. That's the Thunder Crash consumed there from Spudio. And Froisan on the backside has Fear No Evil. This could potentially be a big ultimate. He finds 4 members, but who is the follow-up? Itori trying his best with the autos, but can't hit much.
No, can't quite yet. Itori will survive that masterful shot. Man, and that ultimate from Froisan actually catches Dimi up against the wall. He ate the full duration of that Fear No Evil, and even under the tier 2 tower, so he took like 3 tower shots on top of it, almost fell. towards the tower. So at least Exordium still have the tools necessary to play defense and extend the game, which is important to get to the late game when you have a Xbalanque trying to build his passive stacks to get that 30 power. Needs about 700 more player damage to get all 30 power, and then Angry on the Thoth. Level 17, his final judgment, I don't think connected onto Dimi when they were pushing that 5-on-4 tower. That was a big deal, and that needs to be corrected for the next siege.
Final Judgment's such an important cooldown here for Exordium. So much of their good team fights ride on it. And I think that is kind of the overarching problem with Exordium's draft, is that it does require pretty well executed, pretty good execution in order for it to work. Froisan has to have big Fear No Evils in their team fights. They don't have a lot of control elsewhere. They do need Angry to hit a priority target every time with that Final Judgment. And if those pieces don't line up, then Outcold are going to keep doing what they've done so far.
It's going to be the waiting game for Exordium, being down this amount of gold. It's hard to really contest the objectives when Outcold Gaming are playing that zoning patrol, kind of being that blockade, as there needs to be vision control. Exordium not having the gold advantage either, so they can't even afford to sentry ward at the same rate and pacing that Outcold Gaming are.
That's right. When you're behind on gold, there's a lot you can't quite do that your opposition can. Spudio just going to defend the tier 1, so this won't be a free pick for Angry and Froisan. They'll instead fall back. Fury up in about 7 seconds, and Outcold already starting to rotate in. In fact, they're lurking around the corner, but they give up on that sneaky tactic, and instead, they'll be right here when it spawns.
Important build out of Alka, going for the Relic Dagger to get more blinks and upgraded shells off, and he's definitely going to need to blink in here to play defense.
Already below half HP, hits this Primal Fury, and he's being zoned out. No way that he'll be able to blink now. Outcold secure the objective easily and send Exordium packing. And I think Exordium have crossed that threshold where they might have to start giving stuff up and wait for good fights.
Good play from Dimi, zoning out Alka, the only person in range to contest that one. He could have blinked in and looked for the knock-up instead, but no one else from his team was even close towards playing defense, and Outcold Gaming feeling very confident. We're not satisfied with just that one objective.
While Angry was just barely able to evade and punish out, but Dimi, relentless in his pursuit, makes his way there to get to him. Fear No Evil forced to be used in the back line, so FrostiaK dunks back in for some nice stuns, pulls some beads, but they don't get any kills just yet. This is all happening between the tier 2 and the Phoenix, and Dimi might finally pay for it as they lock him down.
Oh, FrostiaK trying to stun from the side there. PrettyPriMe looking for something. There goes Alka's ultimate. A little bit late to the party. PrettyPriMe should get out. Can't say the same for Breez.
Yeah, Breez in trouble. That tether should be able to pop on him, but no, a perfectly timed sash just into the enemy team is all. And it ends up costing him his life. They're Outcold finally overstep a 2-for-0 in favor of Exordium, and they'll have a moment where they can try and punish.
You know how we have those team fight recaps, Finch, and
right,
we see how much damage one team does versus the other? I want to see the team fight recap of the tower damage in that last team fight. That was a very long, drawn-out fight in a bad position. If Outcold Gaming got the tower, would have been cleaner.
Tier 2 tower in mid will come down for Exordium. That's a big swing. They save their tier 2 and force down the tier 2 on the opposite side. That's about 2,000 global gold for the squad. They just add it to their pockets, and even still, they're down 5,000 and 5,200 experience. It just goes to show how big the deficit was. Now it's Pyromancer time, and Outcold actually stripping away FrostiaK with the hammer over the wall.
That's the kind of plays you love to see if you're a Thor fan, even outside the Outcold Gaming fan. And this is so important for Exordium. Even though they lost that last Pyromancer, just the fact that they got those 2 towers was good enough because of the level disparity between Itori and PrettyPriMe.
Alka's become the target. FrostiaK took to the sky. Anvil of Dawn and the hammer after. See you later, Alka. That makes a 5v4 in favor now of Outcold. They're not even looking for FG yet. They're just pushing out Exordium.
Wow, that was a very difficult Windfire Wheels on an Osiris in his passive. Will go down to all 5 OCG members. Huge shout out to Breez hitting that ability.
This is what I mean, man. I do think that this kid's nuts. He just needs probably a little bit more time. Pretty new to SMITE. Just he came from another competitive scene.
Like
and
6 months ago?
Yeah, and has now, I feel like, really kind of found his own already, man. I'm excited to watch this guy's path. As Fire Giant is at half HP. Froisan's nearby, and so is Angry, but I don't think they really have much realistic chance of making it in. Not if they're zoned away properly. Fire Giant still with 3k health, though. Outcold taking their time.
They definitely are. They're lacking the DPS from PrettyPriMe because he's keeping Froisan at bay. Normally, it's like your solo laner that's doing the dirty work of the zoning, but sometimes you need to be able to swap your roles from time to time, whether it's mid to long lane, vice versa, or who's zoning and who's doing the DPS.
I might not have a chance. I want another chance. I want to ask your opinion here now on this Heartseeker, man. You can tell already how much people are liking it.
Look
One
at
for
that.
Frosty and Brock.
It's a lot of power as well.
75, I think?
It does damage based off of your health now, so like 3% at 200 power, scaling up
Right.
to 6% once you hit 400. Very difficult
If
to
you
hit
hit that, yeah.
400 physical power, by the way. You're going to have to go like full glass cannon build to optimize that. But still, if you're spam-oriented, when you have 20% CDR with Yodins for FrostiaK, you can easily use the hammer safely. Use that Berserker Barrage, which is 8-second cooldown without CDR, by the way.
Yeah.
So you're doing a lot more damage when you're looking for this poke and reset, especially against a tanky target like Osiris.
It just adds some extra kill potential. And I think they're building this in the right spot. I don't love Heartseeker right away, even though it is a ton of power. But in that fourth slot, when you're ahead with a little bit of extra pen right behind that, it's going to do so much work for both of these players.
Even like the mana and MP5 to spam is even a nice little added touch. Thor, Chiron, they are definitely more ability focused than basic attacks. Even though today we've seen some heavy swings out of Thor hammers in general.
Right. So we did like an almost 300 hit or something like that we saw earlier in the day.
Disgust.
To finish off a kill. Looks like Exordium just decided to push over on the right-hand side and get what farm they can. Much likely won't be able to defend out cold on the tier 2s. Now they're in position on the left side, Phoenix, though, to be ready to slow down this push.
Now, it's not the enhanced Fire Giant, but this is still a very devastating siege that I don't know if Exordium can really hold onto, especially with FrostiaK in the air.
Froisan's still not here yet. He's still on the right-hand side, waiting on his back to channel. So this is a good time they can fight where it's a 5v4. Finally, Froisan comes in and forces out the beads from FrostiaK, but the Phoenix is already low. Spudio's going to step in for a little bit more damage. They need Prime in here putting in the autos, and he's in Centaurus.
Oh, angry. Couldn't just get the damage he needed to onto PrettyPriMe. Now the Phoenix will finally go down, but the body blocks are so good.
They still have not gotten the Phoenix up until this point. Finally, Prime gets close enough to weave one in, but Alka wants to make them pay. Spudio is his initial target. Breez comes back in with the sash, and suddenly they're biting off a little bit more than they could chew. FrostiaK does teleport back to the hammer, but at the very least, Exordium find one.
Oh, Breez needs to avoid this evade and punish. He does, and now he gets a Shield of Regrowth proc as well. Froisan will slow him down for the moment. Very difficult to catch up to this nausea. Ring bounce will slow quite heavily.
Good work, though. Froisan with that Sacred Monkey Toss, able to catch up to Breez. So they find two on the back end of a pretty delayed left side Phoenix push. Obviously, still good for Outcold. They got all those tier 2 towers and the Phoenix, but Exordium at least gets something.
They definitely do get something, but they can't extend that something into more.
Yes.
That's when you're evaluating certain sacrifices like two members going down, it's like, all right, we got the Phoenix, but can Exordium get anything out of it? Based on their deaths, they were too far to kind of line up for any objectives between towers and Fire Giant, not due to respawn soon.
Exactly. So even though they did lose two, I don't think it ends up hurting the team that much. They still come out in a pretty good spot on the back end of that fight. But Exordium showing there's still some fight in them. Only down about 6,000 gold or so here at this point. If they can hold on for a little bit longer around Froisan on this Fear No Evil, around Angry on this Thoth, they still have a chance, I think, to try and hold on to this game.
I agree, especially when we saw Itori being behind level 14 to PrettyPriMe's level 16, 17. That one team fight around the tier 2 tower gave them a slight comeback potential to even out those levels, and as the game prolonged even further, now both at level 20 finally with all 6 stacks, 30 free power now towards Itori. It's a good look to be a Xbalanque in this late game.
Yes, you're enjoying that extra power, as you said. And Xbalanque I always thought of as just a really potent late game hunter in particular. Not going the crit builds maybe that Xbalanque initially made his name on, but this fits perfectly in what he needs right now. So Outcold still have to make sure they're giving all their due diligence and patience to Exordium. Though I like this, it looks as though Exordium aren't trying to be in position to defend the FG. Probably can't at this point.
It's hard when you have to deal with the left side fire minions. It's the opposite side of the map towards Fire Giant. If you lose the defense on that objective, you're going to lose the game more than likely. With an exposed Titan like that, even the Winions can make a big impact.
Exactly, so Exordium having to take care of that. In fact, they should be able to trade out a tier 2 for the Fire Giant, they're thinking. but Outcold, the FG, still not up just yet. They'll grab this tier 2 and right as well. So both teams kind of agreeing to just trade here right now. Maybe not. Exordium are backing because they're worried they just lose a Phoenix to this push.
And they very well could be losing this Phoenix if they don't get there in time. All 5 members are there. Dimi not here quite yet, but gonna play reset now.
That's huge.
They were kind of, you know, testing the waters of, you know, where's Exordium? They're not here. Well, I will easily take this base race. It would have took Exordium much longer to clear a fire wave and get the tier 2 tower versus OCG that didn't have to worry about that fire mini wave.
Oh, and now it's a trap, and suddenly Exordium have sprung and angry in trouble way in the backline with Dimi sitting on top of him on the King Arthur. And Itori's here too, both the carries separated from their entire front line. Alka falls as well. That's a double kill for FrostiaK. Spudio is in trouble way in the back of the fight, but the damage to Exordium has already been done.
Cozy probably next on the chopping block. He doesn't have the Lord of the Afterlife to get away from this one, but he's still a little bit tanky. PrettyPriMe unleashing the tether, gets the last hit.
Well, Breez has been finding these timings on the tether for the most part to sash and avoid it. I think there he still got caught, but it ends up working out for the team. A 4-for-1. Only Angry still alive, and look at this recognition from Outcold. They don't need the FG. It's only 1 member up. They can just push.
Respawn timers are a little bit lengthy right now. Alka on 15 seconds, Itori in 21. I think they just go straight for the Titan Finch.
I agree. Why bother with this right side Phoenix? Well, now they have to. Left side Phoenix is up. So Breez just pushes past it, comes in for the sash. Angry wants to get off a big final judgment, but gets interrupted with the Windfire wheels. Brought right back down to the waiting hands of Outcold.
A great play from Dimi with the Sundering Strike first, getting the stun. No beats out of Angry into the Windfire wheels. Right side Phoenix goes down, up in the skies FrostiaK.
And he comes right back down towards Alka. They're now starting to trickle in one by one into the waiting hands of Outcold. And you're right, once they saw there were no beads there, they're able to get a nice easy pick onto Angry. Minions can do their job here on the left-hand side. Alka and Itori might not even be able to clear this in time.
So close,
Yeah.
but they couldn't get their unfortunate play out of Exordium. But this is the advantage of getting the left side Phoenix, the long lane side, the most important one of the game.
And look at this, Dimi's 0-1-10. He still doesn't even have a kill to his name, but he's been a nightmare this game to deal with. I mean, no one in Exordium has able to lock him down or answer him properly.
When you could zone away both carries,
Cozyx
that's
here,
the dream. Cozy, probably not the spot he wants to be in.
But Alka's coming in as well. Outcold do still grab the objective, but Exordium are making a Hail Mary play with the Fear No Evil. FrostiaK is down quite low, but they're starting to scatter the wind. Cozy jumps to the back line to see if he can find a way to get to PrettyPriMe or to FrostiaK, but he just doesn't have the damage, and Outcold should be out.
But they have the enhanced fire giant. Their sustain is going to be very important to work off of, especially now with not just one Phoenix down, but 2. So Exordium are going to have to double their workload to play defense. I love the play from OCG with how clean they disengaged as a unit. Looking for kills still at the same time with PrettyPriMe's ultimate. Good jump away from Froisan, but these are the clean ways to execute when you're looking to close out a SMITE game.
This really has been such a strong game from Outcold so far. And the pace of this game has been, it's been a frantic sort of pace, as just constant action and not always, necessarily kills, but invades or something was always happening in this game. And those are the kind of games where I feel like experienced teams usually kind of rise to the top. Exordium had to answer so many questions this game. Eventually, they were going to get some wrong.
And I kind of have to look back at the draft, Finch, unfortunately, because it was Exordium with the first pick, and they locked in the Thoth. You hear this from me quite often. It's like, did the first pick justify the means?
Right.
And I didn't see that much first pick value out of the Thoth this game. And then immediately Outcold Gaming, they answered with the Thor and King Arthur. I think both of those 2 picks justified being picked in those slots. FrostiaK, 6-2-7. A part of, 13 of his team's 17 kills. He is the MVP of this game if OCG win.
Yeah, if you're assessing draft value, I think you're looking exactly correctly there, Totally. They do have FrostiaK keeping the left side wave pushed up. Fear No Evil gets to Spudio away in the back line, and Froisan actually finds the kill. Breez at half HP too, but he only has Alka on him for now, so he should still be okay. Meanwhile, there are minions coming into the Titan room. They've got to win this fight quick and get back to defend.
Uh-oh, FrostiaK on the back line takes care of Froisan. You're right, Finch. They have to play defense on their Titan, looking for the evade and punish, just not having the range, and now the front line out of Exordium are exposed!
Yeah, they're a bit isolated here now. They've been doing all this fighting and stuck without being able to back. So now Alka's in some trouble too. He shall fall. It's just Angry and Itori left to defend. and Angry has plenty of damage, but there's minions coming in from both side lanes now.
There's no way Exordium can defend with only 2 versus 4, and the minions Angry forced to use the beads. Itori trying to do what he can as well.
They're just going to push past this middle Phoenix. It will not be a roadblock to them any longer. Itori does find FrostiaK, but look at all the minions starting to pour in. It's just not enough. This Xbalanque can't handle the burden alone. Titan now below half HP, now below a quarter, and Outcold take game 1.
An action-packed game, 31 kills in 33 minutes until finally Outcold Gaming win game 1 in the best-of-3 set.
Yeah, it was a strong game 1. We said coming into this one that Outcold didn't just need to win this set. If their aspirations were to be in the top 2, they need to come in and dominate. And I think that's what we saw from them here this game, man. It really was not ever in question.
They definitely need to dominate in game 2 as well, because the last time that these teams faced off, it was a 2-1, still favoring OCG at the end of the day, but they need to still be very clean about their execution in the late game. I definitely saw it here today.
I agree. I think that there was a slight chance that if 1 or 2 more of those fights in the late game don't go their way, then Outcold could have potentially dropped that one, but they showed us that that early pressure, specifically on the blue buff, they could translate into wins.
They were definitely feeling themselves at times. I'm looking back at that Tier 2 tower siege when they started to go between the Phoenix and the Tier 2
that was a little
tower.
much.
But after that, they cleaned it up. They looked very nice.
Yes, they made sure that even if it was a risky play, it wasn't going to be one where they lost everything, so a great call there from Outcold. But can the bounce back happen here in game 2? We'll find out after the break. INAP, powering the control room for the SMITE Minor League.
And just like that, we're 1 game to none. Welcome back to the SMITE Minor League. I'm Tom Battinger, and that's going to be Aggro Ryan Bailey to my left. You excited to be here? Yes, he is. We're eager to look at what happened in game number 1.
And it was Outcold dominating pretty easily, it felt like. I mean, this Chiron pick in the mid lane for PrettyPriMe worked really, really well. And Dimi on this King Arthur was unstoppable. I mean,
Yeah.
this is what we expected from this Outcold team from day 1 of this season, not just phase, but of this season, was this high-level play with these pro players who have had such experience at the top levels. Prime looks great on the Chiron. This is exactly the type of god I want to see him on. Like I said, the meta might not favor a team like Outcold right now with the way that the god pools kind of work these days, but you can always make it work for yourselves if you try hard enough, and I think this is the exact type of thing I want to see Outcold doing.
Chiron absolutely is a hunter that fits Prime, a very mage-type hunter. When you watch a lot of these replays for PrettyPriMe, this is what you're seeing, these long-range shots, a lot of times through the wall. That is mage, not hunter ability-esque, and Prime is able to capitalize off of that right there, playing very, very aggressively. Prime winds up 8-0-6. I've said it before in the Pro League, I'll say it again in the Minor League. Feed the Swede! When this guy plays well, he brings the team with him. FrostiaK as well, a big part of our conversation before the game. Inconsistency here, anything but 8, a couple of deaths, and some assists as well. Dimi bringing out the space. You mentioned how strong he was on the King Arthur.
Phenomenal play from Dimi. I mean, top of the player damage charts, not just by way of consistent poke damage against Cozyx in lane. He was consistently creating a ton of space in these team fights, zoning out the backliners, killing the backliners basically by himself, just ultimately not getting those last hits. FrostiaK did a lot of that. Those two worked very well together today.
Ultimately, I think a lot of our assessment regarding the Raijin was actually true. Breez had the same amount of damage, if not more, than the carry did. Raijin didn't do much. It didn't matter. The rest of everybody else did it all. Game number 2, picks and bans, please.
Still brought a little bit of CC. You know, I'm not going to say Spudio did nothing, but probably could have done more on a different pick. Pick something besides Raijin. He's not very good right now.
Exordium here starting everything off. The Thor, first and foremost, going to be taken away from FrostiaK, and I like this choice. Not only is it a character that can be an initiator, it can be an assassin. I mean, changed from warrior, technically still can play frontline if need be, sets the pace of the game, allows you to be interesting. It's everything FrostiaK wants. I could bring up more points, but Exordium banned it away, which is the salient one to be sure. The Morgan also take it away, as you noted, in game number 1.
I like it so far from Exordium. Outcold take away the 2 best gods in the game right now by my estimation, so kind of what we expect from the picks and bans on the second side. Exordium decided to take away the Chiron from PrettyPriMe, and if their estimation is what mine is, that this meta doesn't really favor Outcold, Prime wants to play mostly mages, take away the few hunters that fit that mold, I think makes a lot of sense.
Set Isis and Kepri banned out by OCG across the way. That makes sense too. Picks and bans, something I think we can all agree on here, come out looking strong. Exordium's first choice overall, the Thoth guy.
Angry played okay on this pick, I'd say. I mean, had a little bit of a weird engagement by Gold Fury where it couldn't really decide if I'm securing, if I'm fighting with Final Judgment. Those things do end up making a difference. And Amaterasu gets through and immediately snap blocked by Outcold. We're seeing a lot of bans of Amaterasu these days.
Yeah.
Did get a change in the most recent patch. A lot easier for her to dash. That dash much harder to body block now, doesn't self-root. That, in conjunction with the rest of the kit, maybe that feels like people put her over the edge. We'll see if that ends up being the case. Seems to be the prevailing theory right now.
Certainly could be. Amaterasu and Chronos should be a nice match. I just love the auras. I will never dislike the auras coming out from Amy. Serqet here matched up with the Thoth from Exordium and the King Arthur. Like these choices. I think the Thoth is a character that kind of needs space and control. King Arthur's going to provide that space, and Serqet's going to provide that control. You're setting yourself up for a victory.
Yeah, I like it so far. I like this Geb pickup for Breez at the same time. This does mean that Amaterasu almost certainly going to Dimi in that solo lane, but that certainly fits his playstyle. Teamfight controller, I think that this is a really good pick for him overall. Breez probably doesn't want to fall behind early like he did a little bit on that Naja, victim of the first blood, but ultimately was able to come back and make a big impact anyways. Geb just has those moments against gods like Serqet where you can get focused out pretty easily because if she's going on a different target, you're just going to shield them, so she may as well just attack you.
Breez coming into his own and becoming a SMITE player in his own right, previously pro in other games. We haven't mentioned that fact for a while because he's made his statement here as a SMITE pro, and it's been very, very impressive here. Now towards the latter stages of the split, it's up to him and the team to kind of bring it on home and solidify themselves in that number 2 spot, maybe number 1, but definitely fighting for that chance to go to another land. Susano, after the bans have come out for OCG, the Frosty special.
Seems pretty good to me. I mean, Exordium was willing to ban this in the first phase in game 1. Don't even ban it in the second phase here in game 2. Bit of a surprise to me there, but again, I like the idea of keeping the AMC out of PrettyPrime's hands. Put him on a true hunter if you can. On her still open. That's something that PrettyPriMe probably has worked on. I mean, I don't know how you're a mid laner these days and haven't worked on the on her. Yeah. You've been so prevalent and so successful. It's a pick you got to have.
Completely agree. PrettyPriMe here, probably the one on the clock. I doubt that he'll be the one piloting the Chronos. Of course, that is a possibility. And the Izanami is going to come out one more time. We saw this from another top team, Simplicity. I liked it there. We'll see if I like it in the hands of PrettyPriMe.
It's got some pretty decent matchups here. Serqet going to latch on herself to Geb. You drop that Dark Portal underneath. As soon as that CC immunity goes away, she gets silenced, takes a whole bunch of damage. Clearly, EU is starting to play a little bit this Izanami mid. I don't know if Outcold and Simplicity have been scrimming or if it's just been a ranked thing that a couple players have started to pick up, but gaining a little bit of traction. It's a 1-1 so far. It's 1-0 so far, rather. We'll see if it can go 2-0.
Izanami, is she easy, Nami? We'll find out. John Tolley, take us to the game.
We certainly will. Exordium versus Outcold game 2 about to get underway. And Izanami's not the only flavor that we've seen so far today. Amaterasu has been getting a bit more value, at least in terms of bans, and now we might finally get to take a peek behind the curtain as Dimi plays it for us.
We'll see how it goes. It did receive a little bit of changes. The damage numbers on her too, as well as making it easier to connect. Alka with the steal.
Yeah, Deathbane's just that good, man, at confirming objectives. It's so hard to do more damage than that early on in the game all at once. So Alka gets away with it and can continue to harass FrostiaK now. This is really all he's going to be doing is just following Frosty around and making his life miserable.
It's funny the change between Game 1 and Game 2.
Yeah.
Both supports starting in the solo lane. Now it's like, nah, I'm Serqet. I'm going to have my way at your jungle speed buff. Now, to be fair, Susano very hard at confirming objectives early game at level 1, so that makes a lot of sense. Deathbane, even without Assassin's Blessings, can sometimes out-damage a Susano to confirm a buff.
I agree, as Froisan moves in to strip away the blue buff on the right-hand side too. So Exordium have been greedily stripping away the jungle from their opposition, and it looks like they defended their own red. Itori grabs that too, so not a bad rotation for Exordium here at all around these first few buffs.
Spudio going to get bullied a little bit. Difficult to handle a Thoth that can have such long-range poke. And this is still the early game. This is not where Angry should be starting to lead the poke battle war, but he definitely is thus far.
Spudio, though, is level 3, and look, there's an early gank coming over, but FrostiaK is on level 1. This might not even be a gank. He might just be here to leash some farm.
Yeah, he only has Jetstream at level 1. So,
Yeah.
like, what is he going to do?
I imagine this is just to try and get, like, it's more about trying to catch up than even look for a kill here, as Angry does tick over to level 3. FrostiaK probably not that big of a threat.
Now, if he gets level 2, he gets Wind Siphon, and Angry uses his Evade and Punish offensively, that's the only way this will be a kill. But you're totally right, Finch. He's starving for farm. He's the lowest on the experience per minute category.
Yeah, significantly lower. Remember, you're not comparing him to the next one up. That was Alka. You're comparing him to Froisan, who's way higher up at 228. I mean, it's a ton that he's behind here right now. And Froisan might even be in position to steal this speed again, though Breez on his way, as is Prime. This won't be easy.
Definitely won't be. Let's see how he plays it. Cozy on the King Arthur, even making this presence. This just might be a straight-up kill onto Breez. The stun on the rollout.
Yeah, they caught the dash, so Breez is certainly dead to rights here. That's first blood for Exordium, and they'll be able to grab the speed buff too. What an answer to the way that Game 1 goes. It's brutal how much they're in the jungle right now, stripping it away from Outcold.
A little bit of a problem for Dimi playing the Amaterasu solo lane because you just don't have the pressure to stop the King Arthur from making those rotations.
Right.
Last time, Dimi had the bully presence on the King Arthur alongside his support Naja to get that pressure and look for the invades. Now, they're on the late game side of things where they're picking the Amaterasu, the Geb, the Chronos, Izanami for sacrificing their early game pressure to win the team fights in the late.
Froisan just split that purple buff. It was an invaded purple, so that's not too bad as he comes to strip away the red buff from Itori as well. Successfully does that. Itori looking for the chase, but Angry's nearby. It doesn't matter. That's worst case scenario now as Itori takes a spill.
You're always looking for any farm you can get when you're losing your side of the jungle, but when you're not having the pressure in mid and getting collapsed on, it becomes so much riskier to go for those plays when you don't have speed buff to rely on to disengage.
Great dive bomb in from Itori as well, and I don't mean that it was mechanically good. I just love that recognition that he had kill potential there on FrostiaK, and he absolutely did. Puts him down early with just a Hunter's Blessing and Devo Gloves tier 1.
He saw the fact that Jetstream was used and the Storm caught it. No more escapes for FrostiaK. Covering the option was Angry!
He goes for it. Not a lot to lose there if he doesn't hit, and then obviously if he does get the solo kill, it's huge. He missed the evade and punish, though, on the way in, and I think that's what really allowed for Spudio to weasel his way out of there.
And this is where Spudio will be struggling to keep up. Before he gets the Pythagram's piece for the extra health, the extra cooldown reduction, Angry's going to have a field day just spamming the Hieroglyphic Assault through that wall, having so much range on it. It might come to a point where Spudio might have to consider using that Accelerate on the first tick just to get extra health regeneration.
Sure. There's a lot of ways that you can use that Accelerate ability as there comes the ult now from PrettyPriMe, and Itori, or Alka rather, will heavily pay for it. 4 members rotate over. You're not stealing this speed buff, Exordium. They send him packing.
Finally, FrostiaK gets his own buff for once. A good rotation from Dimi as well. Cozy will pick up all 3 of those back camps, but very impressive rotation from PrettyPriMe, silencing out Alka before the Deathbane or the ambush gets off.
That's exactly right. That was just good heads-up awareness on that Izanami pick as well. One of the things that can make her valuable is that silence. It's just a ton of damage. And if you have some reliable setup, not particularly hard to hit. Outcold have a grouping near this Gold Fury, but yeah, that would be ambitious, I think, to try and pull that now. They'll fall back.
They might have had the timer as well from Angry's ultimate being used on the left side, but I agree with you. A little bit too early. Angry still trying to be this lane bully. FrostiaK gonna get some farm on the purple buff. But now Spudio returning the favor.
Man, Izanami, and not just Izanami totally, but Izanami in the middle lane. And I suppose this makes a ton of sense. You pick pressure picks there like the Amuzen comp, like the On Her as Spudio gets caught out. He might be forced into the final judgment, won't even get the chance. He gets dunked on by Angry.
Great play from Alka, throwing Spudio towards the direction of Angry, making it so easy to connect that ultimate, and with the damage over time as well, no real chance to get out of that one for the rewind.
Not at all, as Cozyx very nearly was able to cut down Dimi, though on the Amaterasu, a little bit safer than perhaps you give credit. Dimi went with the Warrior Tab-I start. Is that how you traditionally start on the Amaterasu, right into the boots?
It's a lot of damage for sure. Sometimes you actually go for the reinforced greaves occasionally. You definitely don't want Ninja Tab-I on it. Like, granted, like, mana's nice for her to spam her abilities, but the power makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of scaling on the Dazzling Offensive, especially when you can hit 2 to 3 shots on the same target.
Prime just barely able to dash out of that Sunbreaker combination from Itori paired with the stun. PrettyPriMe now low again, and Froisan's become the target. He makes it up to the sky with that through the cosmos, and he will indeed retreat. But that was more aggression from Exordium around the spawn of the speed buff. But Outcold now have some bouncers there at the door. They're not getting in.
They really do. As PrettyPriMe barely able to survive that one. Forced to drop his own silencing ultimate on his feet to stop Froisan. He does get 2 ultimates through a blink and through the cosmos for himself, and even delays FrostiaK from getting any farm. Still a little bit of an advantage for the Ratatoskr with about a half a level lead.
They haven't been able to quite keep on that same pressure, as FrostiaK has gotten a good deal closer now than where he was earlier, but it's just so much harder at this point to control the jungle safely as they did at the beginning. So they'll just give a slight lead over there to Froisan and see what he can do with it on this Ratatoskr, who's so good at using leads.
And Cozyx is starting to make these like semi-rotations, and he went for the reinforced greaves as opposed to the Warrior Tab-I, wanting to get that crowd control reduction. Is a good look against Outcold Gaming. I mean, Geb into the Chronos, into Dimi silence. You gotta have crowd control reduction against that.
And it's gonna work here for Cozyx to try and keep him back out. That's one of the things that can slow King Arthur down. If you can lock him down for at least a bit, you can stop all that sustain he gets off the Glad Shield and finally put enough damage to actually kill him. As Alka has lived on the Chaos side of the map this game, and yet again Exordium starting to push in aggressively. There's the ultimate from Alka onto FrostiaK, but FrostiaK returns the favor. Breez now low, and Froisan there to make it 1-for-1, support for support.
But in this dual lane, Angry up against Spudio. Off the mark is the Chronos, still looking for more. They are literally living on the right side of the enemy buff side. OCG trying to play deep.
But FrostiaK could be in trouble. He got the knock-up. It just wasn't enough. Dimi isn't able to find the stun off Dazzling Offensive, and that's enough for Froisan to reposition. And Cozyx wants PrettyPriMe too. He's already forced out the Purification Beads. He's done his job even without the kill.
Very important Purification Beads, because the hamstring was going to cripple PrettyPriMe to get away. Yeah, Froisan almost died to the archers there, but Exordium has the timer of those back camps. Alka positioned himself to make that invade a possibility, as he had total trust in his teammates despite being the first sacrificial lamb of that little skirmish.
It's part of what makes Exordium a team that you can't overlook. I know they have had some struggles, and it is certainly a surprise that they're even looking this strong here up against Outcold, but they at times do show that sort of teamwork that can cause problems for other squads.
Cozyx still trying to be the lane bully against Dimi. Amaterasu becomes impossible to poke out once you're level 12 and you maxed out your aura to switch your stances. You're getting about 220 base health per switch of the aura, and that's like not even counting any CDR that you're getting on top of it.
Well, I like this idea from Dimi. He got the Blackthorn Hammer and will be contested. Blue buff secured by Dimi here this time as he goes into that Dazzling Offensive for a nice 2-man stun. And he'll be able to make his way back on out of there. But I do kind of like this Blackthorn. He might not necessarily need a Glad Shield as much if he can rely on his own sustain and just have some extra mana in CDR.
That's right. Having 10% CDR when you're above 25% mana, then a huge chunk of MP5 when you're under allows you to consistently spam those abilities. Even though you might be perceived as not having mana with Blackthorns, you always have mana.
That's right. So a nice bit of itemization there from Dimi as we've got a bit of a grouping in the middle lane. Breez, Blink, Cataclysm into the ultimate from Prime. And that is Itori, by the way, a hunter who shrugged all that off, only losing half HP. I
almost gave credit to Itori. I'm like, man, he had so much confidence and swag. He's like, I'm not going to use the Purification Beads against the Cataclysm and the Izanami ultimate, but no. It was just that he didn't have it available.
Well, I mean, if he had made that play, apparently he was right. I mean, he really didn't take all that much from that exchange there on Outcold. That was the Blink consumed there from Breez, as well as Prime's ultimate, into a target they knew didn't have beads, and they couldn't keep the chain going.
Oh, now the flip return side is Breez. He doesn't have Cataclysm, but they couldn't stop out the rollout to disengage, so Breez will be safe under that tier 1 tower. Still struggling in the experience department with all these invades out of Alka. He hits level 8 first, as Breez just now crossing over that threshold.
That is 2 blinks down for Exordium, though, the one on Froisan and on Alka, so they won't be able to be nearly as active for a little while. They'll have to slow things down. But this jungle lead has rematerialized as well, as FrostiaK only level 9 to Froisan's level 11. He's done a good job of making use of that early game lead.
Yeah, but this level difference of 11 versus 9 than, let's say, 3 versus 1 is a bigger difference because of the experience pool to hit level 10, hit level 11. It was much higher than to hit level 2,
right.
Level 3. So I like the fact that Froisan is still stripping away farm despite being at 12 minutes into the game.
It helps that Cozyx is unrelenting in his pressure onto Dimi, so they can look for yet another blue buff invade. Tier 1 tower in mid, also under siege, as the blue buff does end up getting dropped, and Cozyx got it, so the order side controls the buff this time.
It's almost like the tables have turned completely, where Dimi was the one getting all these blue buffs. Hold that thought, though. FrostiaK gets the knockup.
And Alka gets interrupted in the middle of the ambush. But a 2-man knockup from Froisan buys a moment, forces FrostiaK to overcommit, and it ends up being a 1-for-1 instead of a clean pick. Dimi out-rotates Cozyx here to things with the fight. It's already over.
I thought Spudio was about to make a play there. He was in prime position, but couldn't make anything happen. And that 1-for-1, heavily favoring Exordium, sacrificing support for a jungler. That's the name of the game.
Yep.
All the supports at level 1 are harassing the junglers, and this this 2-level disparity is only assisting Froisan from getting to become this late-game Ratatoskr nightmare.
And you're exactly right. I mean, they literally already have signed up for that exact trade, right? So no way that Alka is going to be disappointed with the way that that went, especially because it had every right to just be a clean pick from Outcold. They interrupted that ambush from Alka, so he was a sitting duck, and luckily Froisan got a 2-man knockup and extended the fight just enough to even it up.
Exordium got their little company holiday bonus at the end there, making that trade a possibility. Is now Froisan still not satisfied with just 1 buff side on the right to invade. Going to go for 1 more on the left, having the red buff timer, but respecting the outnumber, as Outcold Gaming were certainly prepared for that one. FrostiaK even forced a retreat from Alka. A 1 level lesser support Serqet.
That's no good, man. You need to be a good deal further ahead of the supports, especially in today's meta than that. So FrostiaK rightfully falling back from a skirmish he probably cannot take here at this point. So we talked about it earlier, how this double assassin from Exordium definitely does want to get ahead early, and they are ahead about 5,000 gold, a little bit less. Is that enough to where this early game, what you would say, is successful here for Exordium?
I think so, especially if they can control this objective now. Having Thoth to play secure as well, I don't see how OCG stop it.
I don't think so either. Itori's already committed to Sunbreaker, and instead Outcold's going to trade for the Pyromancer, which I think is the best thing they can do in this situation. So great recognition there. They get the Pyromancer, but Exordium get the admittedly more valuable Gold Fury.
Look how fast OCG got that objective without skipping a beat. That sound animation was almost completely in sync with the Gold Fury going down, and that's the kind of plays you need to be making when you are a higher experienced team, because you can't always win your games flawlessly. Some of them are going to be really dirty. You're going to have to like crawl through the mud, as OCG starting that crawl by getting that objective on the right.
No, you're right, man. You don't beat good opponents with a perfect. You know, you make them make trades that you're coming out slightly favorable, and eventually it kind of stacks up, and that's what's worked well for Exordium here so far, and what is honestly them punching up a bit. I mean, Outcold coming into this were the favorites, and Exordium looking strong here in this second game.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Exordium, they only have 2 complete game victories out of the 14 games that they played, beating Horizon Union in the very first week, but then also beating Outcold Gaming in one of their games in the best-of-3 set in week number 4. And with how they're playing now in game 2, it's looking like they might be able to at least squeeze in another game compared to the last time that they faced off to force a game 3.
Red buff invade for Exordium now. Dimi is nearby, but can't even make it past Alka, so the red buff secured by Itori. But Cozyx is still way deep in the back line. He's okay, though. Breez can't do much by himself, and Exordium continue to do whatever it is that they want on the map. I mean, now Outcold, we talked about how Exordium did enough in the early game. I mean, is Chronos, Geb, Izanami, I mean, that feels like enough to fall back on.
It definitely is late game, especially you add Amaterasu to that mix, as OCG have trapped it for a late game. But can they really stop the sieging power out of a Thoth? How are you going to play diving and peeling at the same time? Because there's going to be through the Cosmos, there's going to be a Blink King Arthur on the backline, a Blink Serqet support on your backline, and Geb on Breez can only shield 1 target at a time.
Right, as Dimi dashes in, up into the sky goes Froisan. Alka, first one in to take tower aggro, but they're already done. They've successfully baited out the dazzling offensive from Dimi, though it does cost them the through the Cosmos ultimate from Froisan. In he goes, though, towards FrostiaK, has already brought the Susano to half HP.
Tier 2 tower exposed completely. Typhoon being used, as is the Cataclysm, defensively keeping FrostiaK alive.
They can't defend this. They don't even have Prime here. He's still in right, pushing down that tier 2 tower in the solo lane. So Exordium grabbed this tier 2 here in middle without much contest at all. And now they're on the retreat. Prime can't even stay.
Oh, I think he should have continued knowing that
Teleport.
Okay, that's what it was. Good recognition there. No one can really stop Cozyx from backing there without applying a little bit of CC from that teleport. OCG not getting the favorable exchange that time around, but they keep their Phoenixes still alive.
They do. So it's still not entirely over yet for the squad, but Exordium haven't been taking everything all at once from Outcold. It has been a steady strip away of the jungle, of the objectives on the map, a farm away from Outcold that's let them amass this 6,000 gold lead. They're clearly happy with playing the slow and steady pace.
They really are. Exordium, though, gotta watch out for Angry on the stuff. This level 17, 40% CDR from his build. Probably going to be looking for an E-Staff now. Trading out with Spudio a little bit, but he's not accurate on any of the shots.
Yeah, that's going to make things way less favorable for him. A good invade and punish, though, is about all he needs. And we might have an actual skirmish happening here on the left-hand side. No, a dash out from Dimi. Shuts all that down, so no, he certainly will not be having any action there. But I think Outcold might actually have a pretty decent fight. I mean, Dimi can't really be peeled on the dazzling offensive when he tries to get back there towards Angry, and FrostiaK can send the Typhoon back his way. They got some tools.
They definitely do, but Breez, if he goes in as well, there's no peel for the backline.
Right.
PrettyPriMe and Spudio are left to their own devices. Now Spudio can get out himself with a rewind, but PrettyPriMe going to have a more difficult task ahead of him playing the Izanami. When you're using that escape, you're kind of showing where you're dashing to, and the sound animation is relatively loud, so you kind of hear her skirmishing away.
I mean, it's a bit slow. I mean, honestly, I think it was initially designed as more of an initiation tool than an escape for you to be able to use that stealth offensively. So sometimes when you have to use it in a hurry to disengage, that is one of Izanami's weaknesses. It can be a little bit slower than some of these other carry movement abilities.
Trying to position between these middle and long lane towers is Exordium, dropping a ward in the most common spot when you're sieging. Normally that's a sentry ward, but this late in the game, without Fire Giant, you got to take what you can get. Spudio going to get zoned away, allowing his team to pick up the tier 2 tower.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Great job from Exordium to punish this positioning from Outcold. And they just grab this tier 2 tower over on the left with no fanfare, no real fights around it or anything. And there hasn't even been a Fire Giant yet this game. This is all just off their lead.
I mean, the only way Exordium defend that tower is if they 300 shield inside the tower, right? Like, all play off of each other, because they were making a pincer beeline towards Spudio.
Pyromancer grabbed by Outcold, so that's twice now. They've had to give up something on the left side of the map, so they come back over to the right. and at least get the Pyromancer. But 2 Furies for Exordium and a tier 2 tower, or 2 tier 2 towers are down total. That's a big chunk of this lead they've got.
It's looking good for this early game squad. It's not even close to the late game. Like level 18 for Spudio is the highest level character. Dimi struggling to cross that level 17 threshold, which is so important for this Amaterasu. Interesting build coming out of Dimi as well. A lot of MP5 in this build.
It certainly is, and he wants to make sure that he's able to keep those abilities going, I suppose, at this point, if we're going to be swapping through them a lot. But Exordium, I think it's time in this game for them to start switching their focus over to this FG. We've talked about a good bit that Outcold's draft doesn't get any worse. I think it really does only get better as time goes on, and that's exactly why Exordium are going to start this one up. Spudio, the only one nearby. It'll be a difficult defense if he wants to come in and look for a steal. Below half HP now on the Fire Giant, and Exordium moves in, but Breez inside the Fire Giant pit too. Dimi here as well. They've got Typhoon. Exordium barely get it with the final judgment.
Trying to go for more kills. PrettyPriMe catches out Froisan 5-on-4 for Outcold Gaming.
Yeah, I don't know if this was exactly clean from Exordium. They could be in some trouble. Itori now alone, only has Angry here to defend, and FrostiaK deletes him. Can't quite get to Angry, but what about Cozyx way in the back line and Alka? They're going to keep up their battle too. Prime ends up dropping. The stun comes out, but FrostiaK does indeed hunt down Angry to remove the other carry.
Gonna find out Spudio as well. The rewind was already consumed. No Aegis for him. Breez trying to roll away into safety. Now FrostiaK and Dimi here in the presence, trying to fight these last 2 members with Fire Giant.
It's going to be so difficult. They know they can at least get to the low HP targets, so they do find their way to FrostiaK. Dazzling offensive can't connect either. Only onto Cozyx for damage, using the camps to make sure he gets all 3 strikes. That was well done from Dimi to at least slow down Cozyx. But this fight really collapses from Exordium. I mean, did they not zone enough when they initially started the FG? I mean, how does it go so wrong?
They just didn't have enough damage to outrace the timing that Outcold Gaming can contest. Even though the stuns were dropped, the final judgment had to have been channeled, but it seemed like Angry was constantly restarting that ability because the threshold wasn't low enough for him to fire it off. It actually was almost stolen between that final judgment. Very close for Outcold Gaming, but great presence of mind to still play defense despite being down about, what was it, 8 to 10,000 gold for the Chaos side. They were able to strip away the important members of the Fire Giant, all the damage dealers.
And look at the charts, they really didn't cut into the lead very much. All they've done is slow down the inevitable push from Exordium. But remember, slowing it down is enough for Outcold. I mean, you saw it in that fight. They are moving towards some pretty relevant late-game team fighting on this Chaos side here of the team. So Exordium, they've got to execute a little bit cleaner the next time they go for the FG. I know it was right to go for it, but maybe have someone a little bit further forward, force them to use those blinks and movement abilities a little bit sooner.
Maybe hold on to the stuns from Itori until there is a contest, and you can make the call of, like, is it worth it to burn the objective?
Right, they could have dropped off and just fought. Right.
Because then, when you use the stuns that early, you're committed. You're hardcore 100%. There is no zoning. There is no resetting the Fire Giant, because now without that ultimate, the value diminishes.
Exordium do still have Fire Giant on Cozyx and Alka, so it's not as if they got nothing out of that push, and FrostiaK being zoned away by that Serqet. So it looks like Exordium are still going to push up and try and make a play to bring down a Phoenix the old-fashioned way without a whole lot of help from the FG.
Well, they might not need it if Angry can hit his shots from a distance. It's really hard for Outcold Gaming to get in the face of Angry. Dimi, without the blink, needs to just straight up dash in there. I like the choice that he's went for on the sprint, trying to avoid some of the important slows, specifically Itori's ultimate.
That's so funny. We were just saying how we rarely see sprints anymore, but one picked up in a spot where it's going to do a lot, I think, for Outcold. Able to get in some good chip damage on the right-hand Phoenix. No need to overcommit, especially when you don't have the Fire Giant on your carries this time. Just slow and steady.
About 25 to 30% damage done on that structure, waiting for the next round of minutes before they go in. Outcold Gaming, though, going to need to play defense soon, because 2 or 3 more of those sieges and then they lose their first Phoenix.
You're exactly right. So I think there's a lot of pressure, particularly on Breez. That's why Alka goes for him right away to prevent him from looking for the Cataclysm. Froisan loses the trade to FrostiaK on the left-hand side, but it's still here. Cataclysm onto 2, but Froisan right there with the knock-up keeps Breez in the Suns, and they burn the rock to a crisp.
That's a final judgment you want to see, and that's a dead Susano you want to see if you're an Exordium fan. Spudio will take out the tank of Cozyx, still holding on to the right side Phoenix.
So it's a 4v3, and Alka jumps in aggressively, but he catches more than I think he anticipated. They still have not gotten this right side Phoenix at 50% health. They've got to start falling back.
Barely able to jump over that time stop, and I totally agree with you. Without the Fire Giant buff on Cozyx and Alka, the disengage is a muscle. Left side Phoenix actually getting chipped away by,
those archers.
What is that, 9 archers
well,
right
that's
there?
the real 300 block out the sun archers, isn't it? You were talking about earlier. Yeah, that's a lot of them.
Froisan not able to really commit there. Spudio was able to play defense, so still some hope for the Chaos side that have a 1-game lead in this best-of-3 set.
Yes, and Outcold can definitely still hold on. We just saw it on that Phoenix. If they're not fighting into Fire Giant and they get a little bit of extra help from that structure, they can definitely still fight. Frosty has been 17 for a while, though. He needs a little bit more farm. He's clearly been struggling all game in that department. But the carries, I mean, level 20 for Spudio, 18 for Prime with 4 key items online, they're still relevant.
I agree. Most of the times when junglers are behind, you have to consider, okay, well, how can they play utility? I think Wind Siphon and the Typhoon are great utility abilities of getting members out of position, whether it's by pulling them into the Phoenix to get those extra tower shots or knocking them up to look for other AoE damage. Breez can easily follow up with that Blink Cataclysm. Spudio on the time stop. That's the damage dealer actually coming through out of Outcold Gaming. It's the Chronos.
It's time now for our second Fire Giant of the game to be considered an Outcold. Just like last time, are willing to be here to play defense. Relic should be up for everyone. Still 50 seconds on beads for FrostiaK, and that is relevant. That's a full minute or so where he won't have it to help out with this defense.
This time, Itori saving on to the ultimate to decide how Exordium want to go about it. Are they going to commit or reset? At 50% health, it is a reset, but it doesn't look like they're actually taking the fight until they stunned out Dimi.
Oh, but Dimi might be stuck. Cat forces Breez's hand to come in with the Blink Cataclysm. He survives for now as well and gets the rollout out, but Alka wants to make it to Dimi in the backline. It costs him his life 1 for 1 as Breez fell too. But Exordium with 4 members and healthy health bars can stay near the FG.
Angry's final judgment just wasn't accurate enough to take out Dimi with all that damage, all that CC. You need that final nail in the coffin, and Angry did not deliver.
Man, Breez stepped up though with that blink over the wall. He kind of had to be willing to do that to trade his life out in that spot for Dimi. But you'd really love to have your Geb 27.5 minutes into the game too, as it's time for the next Fire Giant push. Froisan low already, has to dash back out. Itori commits the dive bomb to try and hunt down FrostiaK on the right-hand side. Only needs 1 more auto. He used the beads as well, a lot committed, but he gets the head.
Oh, Cozyx able to disengage as well. Spudio will retreat from Angry. Despite not getting the Fire Giant objective, FrostiaK is up and Alka has respawned, so it will be a 5-on-4 advantage for at least 40 seconds.
Well, looks like we have a pause coming up here, so we'll work on getting this sorted out for you. I'll get the players right back into the action, but man, this is still impressive for me in terms of what Exordium have been able to do this game. But you can tell that they're at this point now where it's getting harder and harder to actually make sure they fully take care of Outcold.
This is a 14,000 gold lead that they've built on a very important way to do so. After losing game number 1, their mentality to, kind of sweep that last game under the rug, to come out firing in game number 2. This is a team that you don't expect to make this kind of performance when you just look at their record, being 0-6, losing to every single team they faced thus far.
But just goes to show you how stiff the competition here is in the European SML. I've been saying that it's competitive basically from top to bottom, and even a team that's been struggling to find wins can certainly put up strong performances. It's the Fire Giant leashed here yet again at half HP, Outcold and nearby. Dimi, the furthest member forward, but look at this Chronos. Spudio is threatening the left side wave. Final judgment a little bit too early there from Angry, and that means the Fire Giant stripped away. Outcold have it, and Spudio can keep threatening the left side Phoenix. This could potentially be disaster.
This is a comeback of the ages now if Spudio can get out. He has the Fire Giant buff. Difficult for Froisan to play 1v1 battle. Only losing Breez, the true hero that Outcold Gaming needed.
I'm telling you, man, I think they made a big upgrade at the support position with this guy, and I'm excited to see what he can do. But Outcold now have to defend. They have to hold on a little bit longer because now they have this FG. They have a legitimate chance to make some pushes of their own if they can stop the siege. They might not even be tested. It looks like Exordium are just falling back.
But the left side, Phoenix exposed, those fire minions. This is how Outcold Gaming built the lead when they sieged that left side Phoenix, getting multiple fire giants after the fact with that Phoenix exposed, making it easier to siege the remaining Phoenixes. And now, despite Exordium having this exorbitant lead, they can't even do anything with it after losing that fire giant.
It's so brutal, man. Angry just has to, he's got to be the confirm. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it is to judge all these factors and who's dealing damage even from the other team to the objective and getting the timing right. But that's part of what you pick this Thoth for. Those final judgments are such good confirm, and it just wasn't timed right.
No, definitely not quite yet. This is the late game now for Outcold Gaming. They're almost where they truly want to be. FrostiaK about to hit level 20. Spudio playing the Chronos at 30 minutes with 15 stacks of that passive. That's 75 free power you're getting from this Chronos.
So Outcold are going to bide their time. Wow, it almost seems like Exordium aren't quite sure if they're even in the driver's seat anymore or not. I mean, they made up to the Phoenix, they backed again, and now it's Outcold that are pushing up to their Tier 1 tower. I mean, they can't have been expecting to be on the back foot this soon.
No, they definitely can't. There's still 2 more minutes on this Fire Giant buff for Outcold Gaming to continue this siege, as it looks like Exordium are no longer interested playing defense, which is funny because they have the Thoth, and normally it's easy to just hieroglyphic assault down the way, but that Tier 1 tower goes down a little bit too quickly for the Lycan.
If you're Exordium, you don't want to commit too much, as a little play there from Itori catching the dash doesn't end up mattering very much, but Tier 1 tower might not be worth any potential risk here at this point. They'll just let that one go and defend on these beefier structures, but they have to keep sending Froisan over to that long lane to defend those minions that are starting to pour in, and that means a 5v4 for Outcold underneath the Tier 2.
Itori just popped a 500 gold potion, it looks like. Dimi gonna take some of these shots. Going in is Breez, but he whiffs the Cataclysm completely.
Yeah, he blinked Cataclysm onto a single target, perhaps for a pick, and now FrostiaK has dropped the Typhoon over the wall. This push from Outcold has not been particularly good here so far, but Cozyx still is brought down quite low. A good bit of damage there from Prime. But still, I think Exordium, if they just regroup, can defend this just fine.
They definitely can, as Alka was thinking about continuing the flank on the side, as his ultimate is still available. Keep in mind, only Froisan used it through the Cosmos. Only Spudio has a rewind from Outcold Gaming.
Yes, the ultimate disparity in comparison to what Outcold got there does not add up. They really only get the Tier 2 tower. Froisan able to come over and defend that left side lane. So here we go, right back into it. Outcold in a minute and a half. They'll lose their Fire Giant in 30 seconds. We'll have to consider coming back out and defending on the Fire Giant again. And I do think, for what it's worth, we have not yet seen Exordium have a clean Fire Giant fight. So if I'm Outcold, I think that I feel good about coming out to try and contest.
I totally agree with you, Finch. But I think for Exordium's side, within that 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining, they should be able to push out this last 2 remaining fire waves on the left side to still get this Fire Giant objective. And there's a lot of pressure onto Angry. Last time around, that final judgment way off the mark. Now with a full build, with the exception of selling the boots for a speed potion plus a real 6th item, he needs to hit it. This is a level 20 Thoth, one of the highest damaging abilities of the game.
And you gotta wonder, man, if there's gonna be even a little bit of hesitation now around these Fire Giant calls. Because you do think you have the best secure on the map, you should be able to get a contested objective. But now you're like, well, maybe not. Maybe we can't afford to roll those dice against this really strong team.
Or they might just go for the Phoenix completely on the left side, ignoring the Fire Giant that's about to respawn. At its weakened state becomes that much easier, especially with a Fire Minion wave. But as I say that, spending their gold in hand, preparing for the next siege.
This is so tough for Exordium to decide how much to commit to this Phoenix, or to this Fire Giant, because we already saw Spudio single-handedly steal a Phoenix last time, and now it's weakened. It'll be even easier for him to grab. The minions are relatively pushed up. I know that Cozyx will get this wave, but there's another one right behind that. I mean, this could potentially be difficult waters to navigate for Exordium.
OCG with the vision control now. They identify that Cozyx is defending on the left side, but this Soul Laner does have the teleport up and ready. Once he's needed, he will be called upon like a bat signal.
Prime did splash into one crit item with the Smale Knot. Itori full in on the crit with the Deathbringer Rage and the Wind Demon, and there's no Thorns on either side. So all this crit damage should come through. Keep an eye on these physical hunters. I know they're less in vogue now, but in the late game with this crit online, these are the ones doing a lot of the damage.
Especially with PrettyPriMe having the chin size on top of it, so
Right.
he's going to be really swinging on these tanky targets. OCG definitely not interested in pulling the trigger quite yet, seeing if they can get some poke damage from a distance. Left side Phoenix has respawned, and all the fire minions have been eliminated, so Exordium can still safely position themselves on the right side of the map without fear of losing anything on the left.
Alka and Dimi trading a few blows, but that's no all-in commit just yet. This on the Froisan, though, is much more real. He's been fortunate through the Cosmos and wants some value, so they look for Dimi, but Blink Cataclysm for Breez doesn't find much. They do catch Cozyx, though, with the Shockwave. There are the Suns to force everyone to spread back out, but so far, Outcold can feel good about the fight, unless Itori and Alka work together to take down Frosty.
Keeping FrostiaK in place, and he had the purification beads if he wanted to use it. Alka not done yet. He's going to get stunned out. Spudio forced to use the is still going in. Is angry, needs to hit the evade and punish onto Dimi.
He hit the two most important people though with the final judgment, Prime and Spudio. That sends all of Outcold Gaming running for the hills. Exordium can come right back and start up this FG, and Itori's the one tanking it for now. That means he is going to do a little bit less damage. Oh, and look at this, Dimi's teleported in.
Oh, Dimi on the backside. He doesn't
they're
have
low.
ultimate quite yet, but look how low everyone is out of Exordium.
Yeah, this isn't going to be clean from Exordium. They're going to have to drop this one, and Dimi not going to let them disengage for free. The Dazzling Offensive doesn't find a stun, but he is going to keep up the chase.
And I think that's going to be enough to maybe allow OCG to burn this quick enough.
Wow.
They only lost FrostiaK, Spudio, and PrettyPriMe are two basic attack hunters that can melt this objective.
Wow, that's such... I mean, they lost the fight. Outcold lost the fight. They're going to get the objective on the back end. There's the final judgment, but he just can't get close enough. Breez does his job beautifully and keeps anger away. That's the FG now for Outcold, and a changing of the pace of this game. Now they're the ones actually in control.
With the enhanced Fire Giant to boot, Breez doing a good job abusing the fact that the Thoth Final Judgment is not CC immune. The knock-up into the Cataclysm. No way was Angry going to steal that one unless he literally doesn't even channel the ultimate. He does a quick fire, hoping it's enough damage to steal.
And Breez barely even gave him that option. Good work on the zoning. And that was a wild start to that fight that it felt like totally. I mean, Angry hits the final judgment on 2, but it's just barely not enough to kill either one of them. And I think it's 1,000, like 1,100 to one of them.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't ask for more damage from the ability. It just wasn't quite enough.
Like, Froisan was a little out of position, but on purpose, and he uses through the Cosmos.
Right,
Alka,
that was a weird start, yeah.
Alka catching out FrostiaK inside that last breath. Nowhere for him to go, despite having the beads. I think FrostiaK, being that low, he was like, you know what, I'm definitely dead, because without an Aegis, once you get hit by last breath, you just know sometimes that you're going to die. And despite in a 4-on-5, that didn't deter Outcold Gaming from still trying to poke and prod around that objective. Dimi with a beautiful teleport disrupts Exordium's ability to confirm that objective.
Now we move on to the left side. Phoenix FrostiaK is having a battle with Froisan, but Spudio is here to help out too. Froisan falls first. Alka wants a little bit more, but all this fighting outside the Phoenix, I can hardly believe. FrostiaK does end up falling, but they can chase Alka to the ends of the earth. That's a ton of damage that Spudio was able to put in. If they get a Death Bane back up, oh, Spudio couldn't get it.
He's too fast. Look at his build. Talaria boots into also the Relic Dagger. That is a lot of movement speed coming through from this Serqet that sold off, or almost is about to sell off those boots for a bigger item.
Blink, two-man Cataclysm, that's the beads out from Itori. So Alka jumps in to join the fray, but can find nothing more. Has to retreat back to the back line. Remember, PrettyPriMe is trying to keep the waves pushed up and left so they can threaten both mid and left Phoenix at the same time.
Left Phoenix is weakened a little bit, silencing out Alka. PrettyPriMe can't get the angle that he needs to hit the Phoenixes, but it's hard to stop the Izanami basic attacks as it does go through gods and minions.
That's right, if you're not using that stem, those boomerangs will keep right on pushing. As Outcold, even with the Fire Giant, are done. Exordium's defense here a little too strong.
Final Judgment a little too scary sometimes, especially when you've already invested your Cataclysm. How are you going to make that play to cleanly siege? I think for next time, Outcold Gaming need to group up as 5 members. That was a lot of damage dealt onto FrostiaK without the punishment being fast enough in return. Even though it was a 1-for-1, I think Exordium are happy to make that trade, knowing that FrostiaK is not there to win Siphon the backline into dangerous waters.
Well, they'll see them on the Sentry Wards now, so Exordium have to all start backing to get back in time. But what about poor Angry? He's been called out. He does have the Aegis that lets him get the dash off. The root comes through too, but Dimi goes right to the dazzling offensive, and Angry has nothing to keep himself alive. A huge pick for Outcold.
Dimi trying to escape, does not get stunned now. Alka able to escape as well. The Sun's gonna scare OTG away, but look at FrostiaK now. Going to make this rotation in a 5-on-4.
Man, Angry is so important to this base defense from Exordium, and Outcold were able to smell it out and catch up to him. Now the left side Phoenix goes down yet again. They are going to lose Fire Giant, though, in less than 20 seconds.
OCG making a smart play because Breez got the beats earlier on during the mid-Phoenix siege with the Blink Cataclysm knockup. Goes in for round 2, and now 30 seconds without Angry makes OCG go for the Phoenixes.
Alka goes right to the back line. Froisan's there to follow up too, but Dimi has Cozyx zoned down. Alka can't do enough in the midst of 4. He ends up dropping as well, and Dimi has the dazzling offensive back. Stun into the Cataclysm, and Cozyx has been pushed out of the fight. Itori has to use Dive Bomb already, and the Typhoon chunks him. FrostiaK goes in to finish the job.
Even with Bloodforge, can't get out, but it's still enough to get the kill, and now OCG will win the set.
They should be able to do it. The Titan below half HP, and there's not enough here. Outcold Gaming, 40 minutes, they hold on and close this one out 2-0.
Man, that was a sweater, honestly.
Huge.
Like, if you're an OCG fan, you gotta be fearful about how Exordium were making that game in the early game, in the mid game, but the Fire Giants were just not clean enough, unfortunately, Finch.
Yeah.
But despite it being an 0-2 for Exordium, they didn't play it like that.
No, they definitely didn't, man. I mean, Exordium, I don't think that 0-2, kind of to your point, is going to explain just how close this one really ended up being. And I wonder if Exordium's draft was a little bit too early game skewed. That was one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the game. It put so much pressure onto Angry to position perfectly, to always have the perfectly timed final judgments. And if he was a bit off the mark, it was going to be hard for them to win.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind the early game focus. It just has to be cleaner around the objectives for next time.
Yeah, agreed. Those Fire Giants are something clearly to work on if you're on the side of Exordium. It'll be a quick break, though. We are not done with the minor league yet. We'll be right back.